Welcome back to the Information Week News Desk, coming to you live from Interop, Las Vegas. I'm Sarah Peters. Our next guest is the master craftsman who designed and constructed Interop's virtualization and data center architecture track this year. He's principal consultant of data center transformation for Sigma Solutions, James Bowling. James, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you, as I said, architected the architecture track. So tell me, what went into your thought process when you cobbled that all together?
Well, you know, one of the things that I've always known about Interop, and most people have, is it's a very network-centric, conference.
Yeah.
So the thought process that went through my head initially was, what am I doing? What am I supposed to do to...
Where do you begin?
Yeah. How do I gain, interest from network engineers? So what I attempted to do was look at technologies today that are starting to kind of engage more on the network side. We see a lot of talk over the past couple of years about breaking down silos, and it's all about communication and collaboration between all teams. So I was trying to bring speakers and things in the track that network engineers would be able to understand, yet at the same time the speakers would understand how to communicate, those theories, the whole idea around their talk to these guys. We all speak different languages basically. So it was tough, but I hope I did well.
That's interesting. I was talking to somebody else just yesterday here at the news desk who was talking about the importance of network engineers kind of integrating across all of those silos and everybody kind of getting just out of their own little box, because the network really does touch everything, and that's becoming ever more important as time is going on.
One of the things that we've been talking about a lot this week actually is a concept of a full stack engineer. Kind of the way industry is moving, companies want to be able to realize more on their investments. Well, not only through hardware like we did with virtualization, but now we want to do it with the engineer. The engineer needs to have a firm foundational understanding of every piece that gets touched. That's where we start with the communication. That's how we can talk to each other. If one person understands protocol, then we know that he can talk to the network guy about protocol. I know my application does this, so hey, I'm having an issue here, can you take a look at it? Instead of, hey, it's your fault, your problem.
Well, something that we were talking about just before we got going here was some interesting advancements in testing. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's been actually very interesting so far this week. There's been a lot of talks done about network testing, like automated network testing. One of the things that we've always had problems with in all facets of data center, or actually just anything, network, whatever, is the ability to truly test all the way down to the actual service. We typically think to ourselves, we can ping something and ping, oh, it's up, awesome. We go home, we get a call a few hours later, hey, it's not working. Well, we don't know why, because we didn't actually fully test. Now, I actually just came out of a talk by Matt Oswalt, who's a very good friend of mine, and he kind of gave me an inside view on this before, but he just recently open sourced something called TOD, which is a distributed testing framework for networks, for anything that has a service. He's made it very modular to where we can write what he calls testlets. And these testlets are essentially a mini application or a script that will go out and test whatever service we want based on a distributed architecture. It's crazy, because at that point, instead of just point-to-point testing, we're talking, I can have agents across the world in different data centers hitting this one target. So now I know not only did it work from my house to here, I know that it worked from China to here. I know that it worked from Russia to here, US to here. I mean, that's something that we need. And it's funny because we all knew that we needed something like that, but nobody actually took it upon themselves to truly do it and open source it. I know that there's probably vendors in here that have something similar, but giving back to the community is what's important to us and what really drives the innovation in our industry now, I think. I don't think it's the vendors as much anymore.
It's funny that you say that because everybody that I've been speaking to this week has been saying, whether it's specifically open source or just the word open in some capacity,
Right.
it keeps coming up. And I've been asking them, do they feel like things are just getting a little less proprietary? And it's not just people I'm talking to and attendees, it's the vendors themselves that it just seems like everybody's holding hands a little bit bit more out of necessity, really.
Yes, it's really, like I said, community drives innovation. The vendors are going to see what people are contributing back to the community, because the people who are putting in that time, even though they have a day job, it's obvious that there's a need.
Yeah.
So why not pay attention to that?
Now that Tesla thing that you just mentioned, though, it sounds to me like that could be really helpful for those businesses that want to be more agile but are afraid of it failing all the time, because it seems like every time you want to roll something new out, but you're afraid that it's just going to all crash and burn because it wasn't properly tested.
Right.
I've seen so many businesses that they're like, well, we tried that and it didn't work, so now we're not going to innovate and we're not going to do iterative development of anything, and we're not going to try new products, and we're just going to stay in our safe little box. Do you think that kind of thing could help?
Well, I think it will. I think the view that a lot of people have right now is, the whole fail fast mentality.
Yeah.
And the fail fast mentality, in my opinion, is a lot better than spending all of this time developing something 18 months out and then it fails and you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
I would rather fail fast and fail multiple times. That way I know the final product that I release is perfect. And I use perfect loosely, of course, because, well, we're in an industry where nothing's perfect.
I cover security every day. I know that very, very well. Okay, so looking forward, where do you see the future of the data center going? Because we've had virtualization for quite a while now, and now we have so many containers, we have so many other components of things. Where are we at with adoption of all of this stuff right now, and where do you think it's going to be in a few years?
So, the adoption right now is not as wide when we talk about containers or any of the new, fast instantiating type of applications, right? We don't see a huge adoption of it yet, but we see people moving towards it. We see people getting interested. And when people get interested, they try to find a use case, which in my opinion will make it fail, because you don't go looking for a use case, you have a use case. But containers actually, I think, is something that we're going to see, move forward quite a bit here in the near future. I mean, the idea of being able to instantiate something on demand and then tear it down the minute it's done, I mean, that's great all in itself, but the cost savings also come back too, because you're not sitting idle on any type of resource.
Right.
And that's amazing. That's something that server virtualization did for us. It increased the ROI by allowing us to slam 40 million segregated instances on one host. Not 40 million, of course. I promise I know what I'm talking about.
Thereabouts.
But we had a talk yesterday, actually a panel session that I moderated, and one of the things that they were talking about, the future they see, is people moving to having less on-premises equipment. Having more reliance on cloud, but not in the sense that we normally would think of cloud.
Okay.
It would be more along the lines of people are going to start to understand that cloud is a place that they can move things in and be safe with it now for the most part. Okay, there's still certain things that have its challenges, of course.
Yeah.
When we start looking at compliance, but that's getting better.
It is getting better. Well, and that was actually something I was going to ask about in terms of security. In the beginning, particularly on the server side, less so on the client side, there was a lot of fear about virtualization from security professionals. And certainly that extended to the cloud. From where you're sitting, with all of the services that cloud providers have come out and the pitch that they've been having that we can do security better than you, why don't you just give us your whole data center because we'll secure it better than you could do it anyway. Are businesses believing that? Are they buying that? Is it true? Or are we not quite there yet?
Well,
is the hybrid approach really a lot better?
Let's just say that I'm glad I don't work for a cloud provider anymore because it was very stressful. But I do think that people are starting to accept it. Whether or not it's going to be a rapid adoption,
yeah.
I really don't think so. I mean, look at what we've been doing. We've been talking about cloud now for years.
Yeah.
You know, and we're just now starting to see people say, you know what, I'm going to actually start putting more workloads out there. So I don't know, you know, to be honest, it's one of those talks where security's involved, and security talks are always scary. You know, there's always going to be a good debate.
Right. Well, now we are at, let me ask you this, we're at Interop 30 years. Now, I don't know where you were 30 years ago, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't at Interop. But in the past, in the past 30 years, or over the past, say, 10 years, what do you think was the most interesting or surprising or exciting thing in IT in your experience?
Of course, me being a virtualization guy,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to come out with. I honestly think that server virtualization set forth this whole ripple effect. Now we've gotten this idea where we've been able to save all this money. So of course C-levels think it's great. You know, what else can we do? Look, we have network virtualizations, you know, we have software-defined storage, and man, I'm throwing all sorts of buzzwords out there, but that's our industry, right? So.
I'll tell you, when I first had to learn about virtualization security, for weeks, it was the first word that I thought of. I'd wake up and virtualization was in my head, and my husband was worried about me. He thought that he was going to have to put me in therapy just to deal with my virtualization problem. Anyway, James, it has been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
James Bowling from Sigma Solutions and one of our Interop track chairs. So stay right where you are. We've got more from the Information Week News Desk coming to you live after the